I want to talk to you about a meditation practice. Why should you even meditate? What is the point of sitting there and trying to get yourself to not think or to visualize something else? Meditation really is just a tool for taking some time where you decide how you want your day and your life to go. There is an incredible amount of programming around us. Some of it is benevolent and some of it is not. And the programming is just someone else's idea of how you should live. And their idea of how you should live may be because they perceive that's what's going to benefit you. And oftentimes it's because you doing that is going to benefit me. So there's no reason to get out of bed and turn your phone on and start checking your work email or start checking the news because you're all of a sudden letting those other authorities dictate how you feel about your day and how you're going to go about your day. Meditation, journaling, stillness, checking in with yourself, those are all tools that help you to get back in the driver's seat of your own life, where you are the one deciding, how do I want my day to go today? Who do I want to be today? What does it mean to even have a good day? Once I got quiet with myself, I realized what a good day feels like for me, what a productive, fulfilling, successful day looks like has to include exercise, meditation, and some form of playfulness. And that was really interesting to me because I have always considered myself a really hard worker. I have adopted the moral and the value of hard work and of contribution, of contributing society, of giving to others, of serving. And so when I went inward and found that that wasn't on the list of the top three things, I was really surprised. And I have just followed that intuition. And over about 3 years of pretty consistent practice of checking in with myself, where I do exercise just about every day. And I don't think about it as exercise, I think about it as movement because my body loves to move. So when I move every day in a form that is nourishing for my body and my mind, when I meditate or take time in stillness or take time to journal or check in with my heart every day, and when I take some time for playfulness, whether that is like being on a walk and sniffing a flower, or taking my shoes off and doing cartwheels in the grass, or calling a friend and laughing, or tickling my boyfriend, and being tickled, like silly things that connect me to my inner child. When those three things happen, it's a good day. And then there are other things that naturally come out of it, creative ideas, bursts of energy where I can contribute to work in meaningful ways. That's not through just a straight 8-hour period of I'm devoting all of my creative energy to work, but where I am giving myself the best chance at creative ideas coming through and inspiration coming through and being able to ride motivation to get things done without it being super painful and without feeling like I'm living for my job. I'm living for me, and then there's so much that I'm able to contribute. And so that's what a meditation practice is really all about. It's not another checkbox, it's not another performance of something that you need to do just to keep up with the rest of society or to be healthy. This is about putting yourself in the driver's seat of your own life. There's so much programming out there, and it's not necessarily right. There's so many times in history that we can look back and see that huge groups of people have been wrong, have been very, very wrong about something. And so there are definitely those things right now in our culture that you are being bombarded with that may just be a part of your everyday, that are a part of my everyday, that if we don't have that time to check in with ourselves and question, we might be contributing to negative cycles that future generations will look back and be like, what were they thinking? And oftentimes we're not. That's just the thing, is we're not thinking, we're just going along with it. And so it's so good for you as an individual to check in with yourself. And I'm telling you too, as you zoom out, it's so good for the rest of humanity and the rest of society when every individual person takes that time to check in with themselves and isn't as gullible to the programming around us that can often be wrong. And if you check in with yourself, you might find that there is some programming that you align with, that you really resonate with, and then you can ride the wave of that river and get your raft to walk over to that river and let it carry you downstream, and that can be so effective to plug in to existing momentum that's in line with what you know to be true. And the way that you do that is by having that carve out time that you're checking in with yourself and deciding how your day's going to go. And just as important, you can do that at the end of the day to decide, did it go well today? And that's never to punish yourself, but that's to have a check-in and almost have a rewrite of like, okay, well, what do I want to tweak about tomorrow? And it's learning too, of learn. Sometimes it takes some trial and error to really learn, what does it mean for me to have a good day? Does it mean eating well? Does it mean having time with my friends? Does it mean having a couple minutes of quiet without my phone and without noise and without checking my email? Does it mean that I cooked for myself and my family? It's going to be a little bit different for everybody, and it's actually going to change for you too as you go along. So continuing to do that check-in will keep you in tune with what a good day for you means. And there's no reason that you should have to let your job or let culture or let the news dictate your first thought in the morning. I, I'm just trying to tell you, like, your authority over your own life is so much more important than what your boss or the news or culture has to say about how you should live your life. They don't know as much as you know about your own life. So give yourself that time to check in the morning. There's a bunch of different meditation practices. Once you find one that resonates with you too, and that's not such a struggle and that doesn't feel like a performance, that's the goal too. So it could be, I'm going to give you a few examples. It could be sitting and breathing for a couple minutes. It could be tuning into your heartbeat. It could be journaling. It could be a combination of those. For me, chakra meditations are just life-giving. They're nourishing because they opened my mind and my spirit to, oh yeah, I'm so much more than this physical body and this physical reality. And I've always been really drawn to fantasy books and have always picked up on the deeper messages that fantasy has to offer. So visualization beyond this 3D reality, really getting into the 5D, works for me. And if you're like that, I encourage you to look into chakra meditations and visualizations. I have a lot on my Paradigm Expansions page, and you can also look at paradigmexpansions.com to learn more. And even beyond that, there's some of my teachers that I follow do things like dragon meditations that are really amazing. There are people doing a lot around light codes. If you're to Google light codes or YouTube that, there's some really interesting things where you have teachers kind of using their hands and speaking in different languages, guiding you through visualizations where maybe there's tigers and light and suns and multiple suns. And I engage with all of that as a supplement as well. The chakra meditations and visualizations are my home base. And I engage with those too as just being able to keep opening doors and going beyond. So there's a lot there to trial. And again, the goal is to get in touch with your own heart. And some of these things are useful, the dragons, the suns, the chakra visualizations, because they keep your brain really engaged and interested. And some of the pillars of learning are novelty and repetition. Novelty, repetition, novelty, repetition. That's what helps us learn. That's why a lot of social media is so effective at changing our brains. And even why we see some phenomenon, things that you might think that are crazy. That's like, how do people even believe that? Novelty and repetition help us learn, even if it's something that's wrong. But novelty and repetition of things that are aligned, where you're checking in with yourself and you're giving your brain that chance to change, That is where the gold is. That's what meditation is all about. It can change your life.